Chapter 2.6 in Perloff, equilibrium effects of a specific tax. To answer the three questions listed at the beginning of this section, we must extend the standard supply and demand analysis to take taxes into account. Let's start by assuming that the specific tax is assessed on firms at the time of sale. If the consumer pays P for a good, the government takes tau, and the seller receives P minus tau. Suppose that the government collects a specific tax of tau equals $1.05 per kilogram of processed pork from pork producers. Because of the tax, suppliers keep only P minus tau of price P that consumers pay. Thus, at every possible price paid by consumers, firms are willing to supply less than when they received the full amount consumers paid. Before the tax, firms are willing to supply 206 million kilograms per year at the price of $2.95 as the pre-tax supply curve, capital S superscript 1, in figure 2.12 shows. After the tax, firms received only $1.90 if consumers pay $2.95, so they are no longer willing to supply a quantity of 206. For firms to be willing to supply a quantity of 206, they must receive $2.95 after the tax, so consumers must pay $4. By this reasoning, the after-tax supply curve, capital S superscript 2, is tau equals $1.05 above the original supply curve, capital S superscript 1, at every quantity, as the figure shows. We can use this figure to illustrate the answer to our first question concerning the effects of the tax on the pork market equilibrium. The specific tax causes the equilibrium price consumers pay to rise and the equilibrium quantity to fall. Again, the sentence reads, the specific tax causes the equilibrium price consumers pay to rise and the equilibrium quantity to fall. The intersection of the pre-tax pork supply curve, capital S superscript 1, and the pork demand curve, capital D, in figure 2.12 determines the pre-tax equilibrium E sub 1. The equilibrium price is P sub 1 equals $3.30, and the equilibrium quantity is capital Q sub 1 equals 220. The tax shifts the supply curve to capital S superscript 2, so the after-tax equilibrium is E sub 2. At E sub 2, consumers pay P sub 2 equals $4. Firms receive P sub 2 minus $1.05 equals $2.95, and capital Q sub 2 equals 206. Thus, the tax causes the price that consumers pay to increase. Delta P equals P sub 2 minus P sub 1 equals $4 minus $3.30 equals 70 cents. And the quantity to fall, delta Q equals Q minus Q sub 2 minus Q sub 1 equals 206 minus 220 equals negative 14. Although consumers and producers are worse off because of the tax, the government acquires new tax revenue of capital T equals tau times capital Q equals 100 equals $1.05 per kilogram times 206 million kilograms per year equals $216.3 million per year. The length of the shaded rectangle in the figure is capital Q sub 2 equals 206 million kilograms per year, and its height is tau equals $1.05 per kilogram. So the area of the rectangle equals the tax revenue. The figure shows only part of the length of the rectangle because the horizontal axis starts at 176. Figure 2.12, the effect of a $1.05 specific tax on the pork market collected from producers. Dollar signs and price per kilogram on the vertical axis, capital Q millions of kilograms of pork per year. We have one downward sloping demand curve, capital D, and two supply curves, capital S superscript 1, with the price without the tax that intersects at E sub 1, where price is $3.30 and quantity is 220 for Q1. And when the supply curve shifts upward by the amount of the tax, tau equals $1.05, we have a new supply curve, capital S superscript 2, which intersects the demand curve at E sub 2, where price is $4 for consumers, P sub 2, and the quantity is produced as capital Q sub 2 equals 206. That was my summary. The text reads, the specific tax of tau equals $1.05 per kilogram collected from producers shifts the pre-tax pork supply curve from capital S superscript 1 to the post-tax supply curve, capital S superscript 2. The tax causes the equilibrium to shift from E sub 1, determined by the intersection of capital S superscript 1 and capital D, to E sub 2, intersection of capital S superscript 2 with capital D. The equilibrium price increases from $3.30 to $4. 2/3 of the incidence of the tax falls on consumers, who spend 70 cents more per unit. Producers receive 35 cents less per unit after the tax. The government collects tax revenues of capital T equals tau, capital Q sub 2 equals 216.3 million kilograms, $1 million per year.